Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome. We will call to order the Wednesday, May 20th regular meeting of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority. Okay, first item on the agenda is roll call.
Scott?
Present.
Carson?
Here.
Peter?
Here.
John?
Here.
Christine?
Here.
And Ted?
Here.
Great. Moving along, any agenda amendments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to public comment. We'll start here in the room. If there's anybody in the room that would like to make public comment, please approach the microphone, state your name, and we have a 3-minute time limit on public comments.
Hey, this is more of a comment question, I guess. Last year I heard something.
Sorry, real quick, could you tell us your name?
Oh, Tom Brinkmeyer, yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
I heard something, it was kind of in the ether out there in town. I'm pretty sure it came from someone that works at APCHA, and they were having maybe APCHA or the city of Aspen was having kind of an idea fest on how they could help or work with some of the HOAs that might be short on money, and that it went something like this, where there would be a grant of money, somewhat large, but in return, we would have to open up our declarations and let APCHA or something do things in return. So they might have a little more control or something in the HOA. And I've never heard anything more about it. It's never, so I think it was just something that went poof, and it was just, like I said, some people discussing something, but nothing came of it. So I'm just curious if anybody can enlighten me if that was ever an idea that just didn't come to fruition. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. I don't recall that there's been any discussion around APCHA making changes to any of the declarations within the HOAs. I mean, typically with Colorado common interest ownership, which is what HOAs fall under, that's not something APCHA typically gets involved in. What we did talk about, and I'm curious, did your HOA, did you participate in the reserve study?
Yes, we did. And it's, okay, real quick, what's going on? We don't need really money for the typical boilers, reshingle, painting. We got your normal things fairly well covered, but we have a building that's literally kind of falling apart, and it's going to cost some big money to fix it. So we're just seeing, so we probably won't hardly touch any of that reserve study because we got, this thing's taking so much money that we won't have anything left. Include even with, you can only ask for so much in from people for a special assessment, and yeah, we're just, yeah, we're SOL basically. So okay, I just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I mean there will be some additional discussion. Certainly, we've hired an HOA outreach coordinator, and so I mean, one of the things that APCHA is working on is trying to be a resource for HOAs, and you know, maybe or maybe not. That's whether that's financial. That really I would say is more in the hands of the city and the county as to whether there would be a financial component to that. But you know, more in trying to be a you know, just more of an advisory capacity, right? So if there's other things that APCHA can do, you know, one of the things that jumps out to me initially is insurance, right? I mean, insurance is up and up and up and up, seemingly across the board, and you know, are there ways to try and reduce insurance, or you know, are there ways that maybe you could explore where some of the, you know, I know there have been HOAs that have transferred some aspects of the common elements, responsibilities to the individuals, and then sort of let the individuals do, for example, windows. I know that that's one where some HOAs have done that. So, you know, I would say get with the HOA outreach coordinator and let's see if, you know, there's ways that APCHA can be helpful if not in a financial way, at least initially, maybe there's other ways that APCHA can be useful.
And Tom, one of the other things that I would suggest is that we do come out with HOA newsletters that we send to every single owner, if they're, because we are working on different things, and we will try to update all the owners as to what we're working on. So I would just definitely pay attention to those newsletters that come out. We try to put them out. Is that on a quarterly basis?
Yeah, the HOA one I think is twice a year, and then we do much more often the regular APCHA newsletter. But drop me a line, Matthew Gillen at aspen.gov, and we'll be in touch, and we'll make sure you're filled in with everything that's going on.
Yeah, real quick on the insurance thing, we went from 12 to 33, 34, and we've got it back down to just under 19. But yeah, that was another
Big one.
fun time.
Did they give you any justification for the rate changes, and how did you get them back down?
We had in over 23 years, 22 years, we had our first claim, and we thought that was mostly the reason. It turned out they left Colorado, American family, at least this area, and we went through a broker in Glenwood, and he was really friendly, but I don't think he did a great job, and he ended up with this 33 one. He was trying to check with 3 different ones. The next year, our neighbor, because they had the same company, they got canceled, no claims. They said, we're out of Colorado, or out of Western Slope. And they got a broker who actually found them someone, and I talked to that guy. He goes, oh, yeah, let me see what I can do. And he came back with like I said, went from 33, 35 down to 18.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things too that when we had an insurance study, and one of the things identified in the insurance study was just some simple fire mitigation things that can be done, like cleaning out gutters and putting in ember-proof vents, which are I think $30 or $40 a piece, clearing out combustible materials within 5 feet, and ensuring there's not any firewood or anything like that, dead branches on the ground. I don't know if you guys have done any of that, but some things to be thinking about that are sort of low cost and potentially some impact.
So I went down to the fire department in March. I talked to the guy kind of in charge a little bit. He goes, wow, man, yeah, great. You're getting in here early before everyone starts everything. Rice, give me your email. That was March. Haven't heard a thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
he did mention those things you did for the most part, but no one ever came by.
yeah. Good. Well, thank you, Tom.
Yeah. Thanks.
Is there anyone else like to make public comment? Either online. Sorry, I'm still working through trying to get. Karen, can you see if there's anybody online? Okay, if there is no further public comment, we will close public comment and move to Board of Directors comments. I don't believe we have anybody online, so Ted, we'll start with you.
Actually, don't have any comments today.
Christine?
No, nothing tonight.
John?
I just was excited to read about the Cavern Springs Mobile Home Park that City Council donated $2 million towards the purchase of that park because 42% of the residents work in Aspen. Since then, Snowmass Village has contributed $1 million. Pitkin County contributed $1.5 million. And Carbondale and Glenwood Springs each contributed $500,000. I think it's particularly noteworthy that Glenwood Springs chipped in $500,000. 22. So not sure what, I think the total needed is 24 million. Don't quote me on that, but at any rate, we're getting closer, and it's, again, I'm just stoked that everybody in the valley is stepping up to this.
Great. Peter?
It's a lot cheaper than building units.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I would love to appeal to the board again to study turnover. I still think it's a critical issue that would be helpful for informing us in policy decisions. Sorry about that. Do you want me to repeat or? Okay. I'd like to appeal to the board to again study turnover because I think it's critical for our policy decisions, and I'm interested in hearing more about the affidavit report that went out last year, And then I'm working on an inventory of all the affordable housing, and I'll share it with the public as soon as it's done, but that'll be APCHA units, employer units that are free market. So hopefully it provides a helpful picture.
And when you say study turnover, I guess, what specifically are you looking at?
I think there's a healthy rate of turnover in a housing program, and we don't know what our turnover is currently. Basically, the number of people that get into the program each year and leave the program each year, and I think it would be helpful to know, track that so we can see if any of our policy decisions are changing that metric.
And when you say you're doing an inventory, is that for your job as a real estate agent or for APCHA?
No, pro bono.
Pro bono. Awesome.
I mean, I think we track some of that data already, right? When people list their units, we ask them why. And when people, I don't know if we do it when they don't re-rent.
Peter, I refer you to the information memo in tonight's packet. I hope that will answer some of your questions, and if you have further questions, please let us know and we'll see what we can do.
About turnover?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Scott.
No comments.
Okay, and then I just have one comment, and I kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. I mean, I would like to see, APCHA take a little bit more of a role on the insurance front. And I think that we're in a unique position with, I think that there's some grants that are out there that APCHA has the ability as an independent housing authority that represents a number of HOAs. I think APCHA could do a lot of the things like I was just talking about tonight, the simple sort of easy, fire mitigation things. I mean, that ultimately that comes down to the safety of the unit. And if there are things, like I said, cleaning out gutters and ember-proof vents, which are not, they're not expensive items, but they were specifically called out in that insurance report as low-cost, high-impact items that could help with insurance costs. And I think that APCHA is in a unique position because if we have this inventory of HOAs and we can work with all of the HOAs to say that they're all doing this, then there should be a reduction in insurance costs. I mean, if fire mitigation and all the all the new WUI codes for building materials. I mean, if all of those things are driving higher insurance, and we have a group of HOAs that are all doing things to actively reduce their wildfire risk, there should be a movement in premiums. And if there's not a movement in premiums, that's a fair question about why is there not a movement in premiums. So I know there's a Colorado State Forest grant that potentially APCHA, it's harder for individual HOAs to apply for, whereas APCHA as a housing authority representing the HOAs might carry a little bit more weight. So anyway, that's just something that I would like to explore in the future, and so wanted to throw that out there.
I would support that as well. I think it's important.
Okay. We will close Board of Directors' comments and move to Executive Director update. Matthew.
Good afternoon, everyone. Matthew Gillen, Executive Director of APCHA. Yes, Carson, thank you for that. Emily and Meg have been working on trying to look at some of those grants. They're difficult. Emily did find a federal grant for fire resilience for which we could have applied for. In the end, it was not possible, but yeah, we're working on that. We'll keep working on it. We'll get it on the work plan and see what else we can do. As I mentioned, we do have an information memo on turnover in tonight's packet, and then at the next meeting we have time for the 2025 affidavit. Jackie's going to be reporting out some of those findings, and then in July we'll be working on the next year's work plan, which will be for the board. And we will be at the Aspen Farmers Market on August 29th So I'll make sure you all have an invitation for that. And Meg's on vacation, but she has some very interesting public engagement, which she's working on, some of which features ice cream. So stand by for that. And then the only other thing I wanted to point out and recognize, this is Karen's last meeting with APCHA. Would like to thank her so much for all her hard work over the past few years. Tuesday will be her last day with APCHA, so I just want to make sure publicly thank her for all her hard work. So thank you, Karen.
You'll be missed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, move along to notifications, available rental sale units. Cindy.
Well, right now, probably within the next couple of weeks, we have like 17 sales that will be coming up. So whatever you do, please sign up for notifications. I believe we're going to have 4 or 5 open houses next week. So definitely see what's going on and make sure you sign up for those notifications, because we're seeing some movement coming through, and it's in a lot of different projects that we're seeing. Rentals right now, we are getting closer to being full. We still have 1 or 2 units that are still open, but again, if you're interested in the units that we advertise, make sure you submit an interest on our home track system. That's the only way that you can do it. That's the only way that we can offer it to you, is if you've signed up for that you're interested in it. And that's it for now.
Sounds like we have some turnover.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move to the consent calendar. One item on the consent calendar, minutes of the April 15th, 2026 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from John,
I'll second.
second from Scott. Any discussion, changes, additions? Hearing none, it's a roll call vote.
Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Ted.
Yes.
Okay, moving right along, we are we have a presentation on the Aspen Airport closure from the chamber. Welcome. I don't know if you caught the memo on the new microphones, but she was saying if I think you have to be closer to them, and if it starts making noise, get closer, not further away.
Like this.
Very good.
Got it.
If you would just please introduce yourselves.
Let me share my screen. Let's get this presentation pulled up. Share. Now, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. I'm Savannah Grant, the Member Services Manager at Aspen Chamber Resort Association. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you for having us. My name is Athena Pantelis, Member Services Coordinator for Aspen Chamber Resort Association.
Thanks for having us. I'm Maria Tixai. I'm a member of the Board of Directors and the Chair of the Public Affairs Committee.
Again, we are appreciative to have these conversations early on in your planning. So, with all this being said, we are here to share some information from our recent findings from our sector listening sessions and our community survey, which focused on how the upcoming airport modernization project may impact our local businesses and their workforce. Earlier this year, the Chamber hosted a series of listening sessions, and we heard from over 130 businesses across the valley. We heard from hospitality leaders, retailers, transportation companies, professional services, nonprofits, and many others. And we really wanted to understand what they were experiencing right now and what issues will be shaping the future of doing business here in Aspen. And from these listening sessions, we heard 3 clear messages across all sectors. The first is businesses want clarity. Many of you shared it's not necessarily change. That is the concern. It's uncertainty. And so having clear timelines, better information helps everyone plan. The second thing we heard was workforce challenges remain front and center. So think along the lines of housing, commute time, reliable transit, continue to affect hiring and retention across all sectors. And the third thing we heard is that there is a strong desire for coordination as we approach the transitions ahead. And so we had, building on that, what we heard in our listening sessions, we also surveyed the broader community and heard from nearly 300 specific people regarding the airport. Awareness for the airport is high, but preparedness is still very low. And so businesses understand the long-term benefits of the airport modernization project, but they want to be prepared for the short-term impacts. And so what we're seeing is that businesses are beginning to plan for 2027 much earlier than we realized, which means the next 12 to 18 months will be critical for providing clarity and coordination. Businesses want to enter these transitions informed and prepared with predictability, trusted information, trusted communication, and confidence that Aspen will remain accessible during this closure. And that's where the Chamber really intends to focus our efforts. Of the 274 total respondents, 165 were business stakeholders. So that includes owners, managers, employees. And please note that this survey did not ask for specific business names or industries. So already more than 58 of those businesses have specific operational changes planned or underway at this point. And that tells us this is not a wait and see situation. These decisions are being made right now. The listening sessions and the airport survey results really confirmed our role at the Chamber. We're here to make sure businesses are informed by trusted sources and ready to plan ahead. We will continue to serve as that community connector and convener, bringing our businesses together with local governments and other community partners to ensure there's shared information and support solutions. And we want the businesses and the community to move into 2027, specifically that April through November timeline, prepared and not reactive. So knowing that, the Aspen's business community is expecting and planning for change in their operations based on the airport modernization project. Again, that is from April through November 2027. And our survey highlighted our businesses are anticipating a significant decrease in business and are adjusting their hiring and retention of workers accordingly now. All great things to keep in mind. More than 58 businesses and employee respondents selected multiple changes to their operations that are including 14 that are partially shutting down operations and 10 that are expecting to shut down for the entire closure from April through November 2027. 37 business owners specifically cited staffing as their primary challenge, with at least 14 businesses partially shutting down and 10 planning for full closures. We're looking ahead at meaningful reductions in hours for the people who live and work here. And note that APCHA does plan to add these questions to our annual members survey going forward so that we can track these changes over time. This survey will release in Q3 and go into early Q4 before we close it out. So we should be able to report back on those changes and what we're hearing. And here are a few direct quotes from survey respondents. The concern is not just about revenue, it's about the workforce. So, these 58 or more businesses collectively employ hundreds of our members of our local workforce. Each partial or foreclosure means reduced hours and potential job losses for those who are living in APCHA units right now. And the listening sessions and airport survey results confirm our role again. The Chamber is here to make sure businesses are informed by trusted sources and ready to plan ahead as we enter 2027, prepared rather than reactive. We will continue to serve as that convener and connector, bringing together businesses, local governments, and community partners to, again, share that trusted information and support solutions. And we want the Aspen business community just to be absolutely prepared for this closure. Thank you for the opportunity to present these findings today. On behalf of our member businesses, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Savannah. Are there any questions?
A question on the slide about where it said 37%. Their challenge is staff disruption. Staffing is their primary challenge. Does that mean they're planning to cut staff, or what does that mean? 37 business owners cite staffing as their primary planning challenge. So
I think one thing you could do is go to sort of the narratives. If you want to go back to those slides, we hadn't read them, but and you may have other answers to it. But some of the question is the need to reduce staffing, but the need to continue to retain the employees and make sure there's a place for them. One that was a challenge we had during COVID, which was a much longer, more unpredictable situation. But when from the narratives, it is this issue that they are not expecting as much business. They will have to reduce staffing, but they don't want to lose these employees that know Aspen. And I think some of the narratives revealed more. It's a great question because the narratives sometimes tell you more than the statistics.
And you said that a lot of business owners are making those changes now?
That's a great question. The response to our questionnaire indicated that the staffing decisions will probably be made around the third quarter of this year. So right now what we're hearing is that people need to, people have this sort of nobody has a plan concern. But I want to commend all of you for putting this at the forefront, and thank you to Matthew for reaching out. The fact that APCHA has said, we understand this could be a problem for you, and you are in housing, and we understand you may not have hours. I think that message is getting out there. It is on your agenda. What it looks like in terms of a solution for people in APCHA, will remain to be determined. But the fact that you are delivering a message now and early and with clarity that you see and hear the problem and you are going to address it and let people know is really important. We think in the third quarter of this year, our businesses will be starting to make decisions as to what exactly that looks like. By that time frame, we're also going to know alternative transportation plans that have come into effect, and we may be in a better position to understand who's really impacted and who really will be doing full closures. We plan to, as Savannah said, survey our membership in the community again in the fall as these things come to gel and come to planning. And we'd love if you have questions, if you want us to help you convene with people who can give you insight into which industries are being affected or shutting down. However we can help you with policy decisions, that's when we think we'll know more, sometime in the third quarter. And, we'd be happy to facilitate.
Thank you, Maria.
Sorry, I thought
All
I followed
good.
instructions, but
We're all figuring it out together.
You did it perfectly. She gave you a thumbs up. And everything.
I didn't get the thumbs down.
I do have a question, and understanding this may just be anecdotal, but what types of businesses are just completely shut down?
That's a good question. We did not, on this preliminary questionnaire, ask for it by sector. And it's something we identified. It was something we asked ourselves, like, who are these people that are saying that? And it was an anonymous response. But we know that's going to be an important thing. We think it's going to be really the tourism-dependent sectors, but I don't have specifics for you. We believe there's other activity that's going to be picking up, like construction and other things, because people are using the closure to do capital projects. So we don't have that, I don't believe, but it's something we've talked about internally.
Yes, we've talked about tracking this as we hear from our member businesses or other businesses in town, and so we are just beginning to gather this information.
Ted?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think if you're going to revisit some of this in the third quarter and you have the opportunity to get more info, whether it's on any one of these stats, like I've heard of full closures that are businesses taking the opportunity to close, like the Gant, for example, or the Little Nell, to do remodels. They're not closing because they think they're not going to have business, but they say this is a great time for us to do our stuff, and I think that kind of changes the way some of that number might look. So that's why I think it would be helpful to get kind of some of that info. But that was just a follow-up. But I did have another question. Are there any projections, like models that you have about what the business downturn, like high end, low end, of what you can try to project from an airport closure? I know the city has adjusted their budget for the year, I believe, to be down somewhere in the teens for like sales tax receipts. I don't know. It's 15%.
It was like 11 to 15 or something.
So like, is there, I don't know that you have that, or if there's been an effort to try to see, like, what do we think we might be looking at, worst case, best case? And that would be good also, like in future conversations, just to know, because, town, there are some who say that it's not going to be as gloomy as some are forecasting. And I think it's hard for us to really know. Is it going to be tumbleweeds down Main Street? I don't really think so, but to what extent is it going to be hit? And I think that's all important stuff. Like, this is extremely helpful, and I think it's a great presentation. It's almost like, what other gaps do we need to fill in the info before we can really feel like we have the whole picture?
Yeah, that's definitely something we need to track. I think that the early reports from some of the nonprofits that run the summer events were that they were really planning to continue the events as they were. More recently, there may be some uncertainty to that, and it's still developing, but we're right now in the stages where people will start firming up their plans. And I think that because flight schedules have just recently been established, and there's discussion about how to get people here through alternative transportation, it's still sort of early to know how much tourism that is not car related will be coming here. So we will be definitely looking for this information, and we will be reaching out about it. And I think we can, is everything on our website? Is that how we're communicating some of this information that we're gathering?
We do have our data center on our website where we track more so occupancy rates, and then we have the City of Aspen like sales tax rates as well. But I think it is something we can begin to track.
Yeah, all good questions. And right about between now and the fall, we're going to know a lot more.
Peter?
Is there any economic stimulus talked about to try and help the tourism or make it not be a down season next summer and fall?
I have not. I have heard only whispers or questions of whether there were, but I don't think anyone knows the magnitude. So, no, we have not. I think the optimism is that we can continue to provide a great product like we did through the winter, right? When everything indicated that skiing was not open for business. And so right now we're still in the optimistic stage, but I don't believe there's much talk about that.
Have they talked about it at the city or county? Like, if it's projected to be down 15%, doesn't it make sense to try and spend some money to try and reduce that decrease to promote tourism and get more people here to spend? Or does it not come up?
It's come up in...
Sorry to put you on the spot, I'm just kidding.
It's come up in different ways. I don't think that it's directly correlating the 15% to spending that money to increase tourism. That is funded through APCHA anyway. The city doesn't directly promote to tourists. I lost my train of thought, but I think that's where...
We haven't talked about stimulus payments at council table.
Yeah, we got an update from our city manager the other evening And I can't speak for the nonprofits and the events, but he had met with a number of them, and everyone, as far as I know, is planning their major events for next summer. The ones that you can think of. I don't want to call them out because I don't want to be misquoted here, but people are planning business as usual, or with the expectation that they are going to have to be a little nimble around it. And he had also heard that second homeowners were planning to stay longer. So they'll be here and they're staying for longer than usual. I think some of the concern is around bigger events, or not bigger events, is around weddings, conferences, some of these events that bring in large groups of people. Those will not be flying in maybe for the weekend, or they will be fewer. But and you're probably, your events team could speak to that too, or your special, I forget the name of what your group that does, I don't know, attracts that kind of business.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty accurate report of what we're hearing on our end too. We know the Security Forum is one of those events that has been canceled, but I think that's an accurate assessment. Right now, the major nonprofits are planning full schedules, and that is the report that they're getting from their board members and their members, that they're optimistic that the second homeowners will come and perhaps stay longer. But it is the other events and just general traffic.
Yeah, to my understanding, these larger events are still being planned for next summer to bring in those crowds of visitors.
Yeah, and so ACRA does have the contract with the city of Aspen, as Ms. Benedetti said, for promotion. And so as part of what we would be doing for our plan is to promote that Aspen is still open. And the plan is to promote for more drive traffic. We think there'll be more Colorado traffic because of the people that'll be eliminated, that for whom other locations will be more convenient, and they're looking for convenience. So we'll be presenting marketing plans that promote more drive summer tourism. So, the closure is April to November. We have 2 off seasons there, but it's the summer season that really is going to impact the employees and their hours and the staffing. And let us know what other information you'd like us to get together for you, garner.
I mean, I'd say at the county, we're still just trying to shepherd the whole airport project forward.
On time,
Currently
please.
out of the weeds there yet, that we haven't had a lot of side discussions on this topic of, how do we stimulate the economy. I do also agree with, city, we work with the chamber, try to work on that. I do think it's also incumbent on businesses to try to make things more appealing too, in an era where it's like an arms race to see who can charge the most for a hotel room. I do think the community can step up and maybe, take steps to put things on sale, perhaps. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. But we have had side conversations too about trying to find alternate ways to get folks from Eagle in. I know that doesn't necessarily fall under the county's purview, but I do think it's something where I think the third bullet point you had was coordination. It would be good if we were kind of all talking about not just leave it on ACRA or businesses to figure out how do we get people from Eagle here. And so that we have time for that. Not sure that that's an APCHA topic, but on the overall topic of how do we have a reasonable summer next year, we should keep that conversation going among the other groups in the room.
Yeah, on that note, for Food and Wine coming up, is there messaging to them that, hey, next year come back, you'll be coming from Eagle, but we're making it easy and
Party bus,
whatever it is?
Yeah, there are already questions. I think the logistics of the party bus isn't completely in ACRA's hands, but my understanding is that there has been a big planning session, and people are divided into teams, and that RAFTA is actually maybe very involved in that, although they've said that they can't do the bus from Eagle. But I do believe that there are a lot of logistics that need to be hammered out. And one thing people need to hear is that the construction will be on time and we will reopen at the end of November. How we get people here from Eagle or Rifle, which I'm not sure if that one's really working out very well. People are working on that, not me.
I know our leadership team is.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I would say some of that messaging might come a little later in the summer so that it doesn't confuse those visitors looking to come this summer. That's been what I've heard.
Scott?
Just quick clarification, when we're talking about stimulus, are we talking about stimulating businesses, or are we talking about addressing the noted concerns about workforce here, when you were with your question?
What came to mind, honestly, is like I know Steamboat used to subsidize fares into Hayden or whatever to get people to fly in to go to Steamboat rather than to drive up to Breckenridge or whatever it may be. And I don't know, subsidizing transportation or giving people a free ice cream cone if they come next summer. I don't know what it is, but stimulating business and tourism.
Within the purview of this board, as a housing board, I'm concerned about all the construction that's happening and the effect on the economy. I mean, it's more than 60% of Pitkin County's economy gets imported into our economy every day. If we have a significant shift, a step order shift towards construction as what's happening in terms of economic activity in the space, we're going to have another step order shift of impact on local workers. And what we're going to see is that 64% of the benefits of that economic activity leaves our county. And so that affects Aspen, obviously, and the ACRA mission and all these businesses. So my question, well, first of all, I'd like to say I love the phrase, awareness is high, but preparedness is low. That's hilarious. And it's obviously played out in the numbers here. 58 of the 274 respondents seem to have a plan. So I would not say that most are ready for this, and it's definitely preparedness is low. What would be really helpful for me as a board member on APCHA is, what role could we play, or how is it that we can be an ally for you in communicating in terms of the findings for how these businesses can prepare, how we can support the workforce, and kind of where the room is for this to be a discussion about housing affordability and its connection with the business environment. I think that there's a good opportunity for us here to kind of connect these two dots in a meaningful way. And I appreciate you bringing up the fact that we're in this as an ally, and we want to help communicate with you. But I am seeing, written very clearly on this page, the impact here is not to the attendant of Food and Wine. The impact is not to the billionaire who's going to be flying their private jet into Eagle and buying private transportation that's being arranged currently to drive them from Eagle to our community and further occupy Highway 82. So the impact is going to be felt locally with the workers who live and work here. And I feel like our conversation has drifted away from that, but that is within the purview of what this board is aimed to address. So I want to kind of recenter our conversation towards, in the future, when we get to the third quarter and we get more findings from the business, I think we as a board would love to help share that, to help provide communication, to help be part of supporting the workforce community that we are mission driven to help support. So thank you for your time. I don't really have a question except for what's the plan with all these work crews and housing?
Yeah. Well, so if we could just, if Matthew has questions that come up, if maybe you could give them to him and he could signal them to us so that we could get you some feedback. The concern is that there will be staffing cuts and that people don't want to lose these people, and that transportation has also always been a factor and will be a factor because of all the construction projects. And what we don't want is then these people finding new jobs in Glenwood and never coming back. I think those are concerns that we're hearing, and you probably have other questions that relate to, how do you develop and shape policy? And so, if Matthew could just shoot us questions that would help you develop the kind of policies you need to figure out how to help the people who are in housing right now. We'll help you with that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And it sounds as if the board would like an update on this in the third quarter.
Well, I mean, I would like, just as a board, we don't need Maria and Athena and Savannah to hang around for that, but I would like to have a discussion about, what our policy is going to be as a board, because I don't support a wholesale waiver of the work requirement. So
we'll get that on the agenda, some policy discussion on how to address this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. We got 10 minutes. 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 10 min Policy discussion for allowing housing for those who work in All Valley Public Institutions. And Emily's going to bring that to us.
So the airport closure, we're not talking about the proposal?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we do. I mean, we do have time. I mean, and maybe that's helpful for staff just to get the temperature of the board of kind of where everybody stands on kind of what's laid out here. Matthew?
Yeah, whatever, however you want to run it.
Yeah, let's do that. Sorry, Emily. If you don't mind just hanging out for a minute.
I don't at all.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing my screen though.
So I'll just open it up about what's kind of laid out here on page 8. We've got 2 sections. We've got ownership units. We've got rental units. And what is proposed is currently just a waiver of the 1,500-hour work requirement for ownership units and for rental units. Kind of continuing with requalification for the rental units. Leasing is normal. Sales continue as normal. But really, so what's proposed is sort of a waiver of the work requirement. So with that, I'll open it up. Who has thoughts or comments on that?
Quick question. Does that mean you could technically quit your job and still remain in APCHA housing?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say no.
It also means that you could not technically work here and get APCHA housing?
I mean, that's the maximalist position, which would be.
It's the question that everybody was going to want to ask, though.
I mean, that would be us not looking at hours for a year.
Exactly.
Scott?
My
Worst
question
case
is
scenario.
what led us to this proposal? What's
That
staff
was-
justification
that was
and what's the reason?
sparked- I think internally, we wanted to provoke debate about what you guys wanted to do, and this would be the easiest one to administer, as in we wouldn't really have to do anything.
Right.
I mean, that's and if we want to pull back from that or do something else, that's fine. And that's up to you to instruct us to do it. But this was the one where it's like, okay, does the board just want us to take a pass on that for a year, and then staff doesn't have to, we don't have to be analyzing appeals or audits or other things, but it was really just kick the ball rolling with a maximalist position, which,
It
obviously if you want to push us in a different direction, that's fine. But that was just to kick off debate.
Just really quickly,
Understood.
is this meant to address incoming workers as part of the airport construction specifically, or what's the target audience?
This was based on the idea that in our discussions, we wouldn't know who was impacted secondarily or tertiarily from the airport. Like, does somebody who actually works at the airport, luggage handling, obviously they're affected. Okay, great, good for them. But what about, it's going to have an overall impact on the economy, and how do you judge that? So the idea was, we don't know what the impact on the economy is going to be. We don't know at this point which businesses are actually going to be affected. So one way to do it would just be say, we don't know, so therefore we're not going to look at it for a year.
And this would be to address the
Right.
workforce concerns that were just raised by the
Correct.
ACRA team. Okay.
I mean, that would
Caught up, sorry guys.
otherwise, like as Akra said, if you have people who are reducing their hours in Pitkin County, you do run that risk if you're mean to them or follow up in 2027, that they don't come back in 2028.
Can I ask a technical question here?
Yeah.
How the affidavit currently works is it's every 2 years.
Correct.
So the work in 2027 would be part of the 2027, 2028 affidavit.
That's another wrinkle.
And it would go in 29, the question would be asked, and we'd probably look at it in 2030. So if somebody, like right now for the current affidavit, if somebody didn't work in 23, the 1,500 hours, but they worked 1,500 hours in 24, when you're reviewing the affidavit, if they were not in compliance in 23, but they were in 24, are they okay? They're not
They're
in
probably
violation?
okay now. I mean, they come back into compliance, but in this current round of affidavits, as Jackie will explain at the next meeting, we weren't digging that far in. It wasn't a full recertification for every person. It was more information on the affidavit, and the affidavit was previously, I promise that I'm still working. So we asked for more information this time, but not everybody we didn't re-qualify 1,500 units.
So I guess my point or question is the way the system currently works. If you don't work 1,500 hours one of the 2 years, or sorry, the first of the 2 years, but you do the second, you're okay. So if people don't work 1,500 hours in 27 and they do in 28, they're fine. So
Well,
it's sort of,
I mean, under the affidavit, we would analyze that, and if we saw currently, if we saw an egregious problem, we would take action on it, if we saw a problem with it. But no, we're not saying you're clear under the affidavit to not work. I mean, structurally and operationally, we use our best judgment to use the resources we have to tackle the most either egregious cases or the ones of the most impact to us. But we're not, so maybe under the affidavit you could skate by, but we're absolutely not endorsing that. And if there's a complaint or another way of us learning about it, not through the affidavit, we would take action.
so that's sort of the maximalist scenario, right?
Worst case.
Tom?
But to support what Matthew's saying, there's nothing in the rules or even in policy to say you don't have to work every year. The affidavit is only informational. A lot of the enforcement comes from third-party sources. So you're not just dealing with a situation where, excuse me, you can address it through the affidavits. You got to address it across the board because you get information that somebody's not working and we're expected to enforce. You don't get a free year and then you have to go back to work. Okay,
Right.
That's not in the program.
That's not what we're doing
Right.
with the affidavit.
It seems to me that because you've taken the maximalist position, that we can winnow this down to something that fits within the frame of what we're talking about here. And my thought is, maybe one of the problems here is I'm thinking about new people entering the housing stock and messing it up in that way. But I think what we're intending to do here is protect the people who are already in the housing stock if they get impacted by the economics of the airport closure. So couldn't we pretty easily determine if someone were fired or voluntarily left a job? I mean, isn't that something?
I think it's a quagmire.
Yeah, I'm very.
Absolutely. I mean, I hate to say it because the policy, the intent of the policy is perfectly legitimate. We don't want to penalize people who are unable to work because their job is impacted by this project. But defining that is going to be very difficult. And frankly, you can't just rely on necessarily on what somebody tells you. Because, they could get something from their boss, Your job is, I certify that your job is dependent on the airport closure. Well, what do you do with that?
Yeah,
And how do you evaluate it? How do you make comparisons between different workers to determine primary and secondary impact? Now, we could try to come up with something, but it's not going to be bulletproof.
And if we end up, what I don't want us to end up in 27, 28 is 600 compliance cases, because that's not going to work. So
it's a really difficult problem,
Yeah.
because if you don't want to let everybody off the hook, how do you define your target audience? We can try to work something, but it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be an enforcement burden no matter what. Or I shouldn't say enforcement, but a compliance burden, because you're going to have to look at every case and see if they meet the criteria.
Or they're going to leave, right? Or they're going to leave our community.
Whatever we do is not going to impact whether or not they leave, because if they don't have a job and they can't afford to pay their rent, they're going to leave anyway. And I don't think we're looking for a bulletproof solution to try and catch everybody, but we're also not looking to just waive it. I think the answer is the happy medium somewhere in the middle. I think unemployment, I think opening it up to say if you want to work in the Roaring Fork Valley, fine. Those hours would count. I mean, I think we just need to be more flexible. We need to take the side of being more lenient, and sure, maybe we have somebody whose boss lies and writes them a fake letter and they don't work for a year. I'm okay with that. I would much rather have that than just a wholesale waiver.
And the idea here is that flexibility could lead to more appeals for staff, and that's kind of the main tension that we're feeling. Does that capture everything that it's?
Yeah,
I think you could have a very broad list of things that count. I mean, right? If somebody shows up and says I worked 0 hours, I mean that's not going to cut it.
Well, yeah, the other thing is affordability. I mean, if you lose 50% of your income, how can you afford your rent or mortgage?
Absolutely.
I mean, so
yeah, people are either going to have to get a job or get on the dole with somebody.
Right. So
right?
When we wrote this memo, we put in that maximalist position. What I should have done is put in the other maximalist position, which we would, as I just said, which was 700 or 800 compliance actions, which I don't think the board wants either.
Right.
Because everyone who loses wages during this period will be coming to the APCHA office to talk to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be the message, is that we recognize the challenges we've seen. We're planning for this, and APCHA is going to work very hard to accommodate this once in a lifetime event that we're going through.
The ACRA connection here may be really important because that may be the source of your information
That's a good point.
about people who are, definitely affected, right? Because those businesses that tell you, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to cut employees, we're going to reduce hours, we're going to do this and that, that's your primary source of information without having to rely on what an owner or tenant is telling you.
And what they're asking for is more coordination. And if we can help set up a framework that allows that information to travel to us, or to staff, so that we have verifiable information, at least more verifiable information, because they could still cheat within that circle.
Yeah, I think it's just communicating and being very clear about what a waiver is going to look like, and communicating that well in advance to everyone. And if we fail, we fail on the side of being more lenient.
Great. So why don't we come up with a couple ideas and policies, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Great.
my one thought is presumably they have 4 months of working in 2027, so there has to be a minimum
That's a good
number. There should be a minimum number of hours worked, waiving just all hours for the year.
And December, when everything is
Right.
completed on time.
That's right.
No, so 5/12 of the 1,500 number or something.
Right, like some kind of ratio of what it is, because they don't lose the entire work,
Great.
the entire year
Thank you,
work.
Christine.
Good idea, Kristen.
I think it's really great that we're talking about this now, with less than a year to go till the airport closes.
One more thing.
Ted.
Just as someone who worked for the ski company all winter with an uncertain snowpack, and we are dependent on our hours for things like benefits, if you take a cue from what they did, they didn't say anything up front. It was more acknowledging this is an unusual season. We're keeping an eye on things. For now, everyone, please carry on as best you can with the work that you can. By the end of the season, they did come up with an adjustment for hours. And it was based on what they ultimately saw the season develop as. And there were all sorts of rumors, and it wasn't always that comfortable for everyone during the season because there was uncertainty. But in the end, they made I think the right decision, which is kind of I think where we're headed, to make an adjustment down in the required hours. But they didn't do it till the end. So it's almost like I don't think we want to wait till the very end, but it's just in line with what everyone's saying. If we can communicate, we hear you, we know, we're thinking about it. considering a reduction of hours, whether it's 5/12 or what, but I think it can be done. It doesn't have to all be in place, you know, the day the airport closes. I think we should allow ourselves the opportunity to see how it goes, because like we were saying earlier, we don't know how the summer's going to really go. So.
Would it be beneficial for staff to have visibility on that kind of work with the ski company? Like, I'd imagine that some information sharing here might benefit staff. Just an idea.
And, I mean, I only know what I know as an employee. I think that was the HR department was tasked with that and ultimately arrived at their number. I don't really know how they arrived at it, if there was really math to it or what, but
okay.
I assume there was, because that's usually how they operate.
And we have staff who has family that works for the ski company, and we have been kept up to date on all that as well. So we have already taken some of that into consideration for this last winter as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Okay, now Emily, thanks for your patience.
No worries. I do have some slides to help facilitate this discussion, but I think you all can also steer it in a direction that you want as well.
Rio.
That's up to you.
Is that Ipanema?
Rio, yeah.
So, hi,
Ipanema.
Emily Maynard, APCHA's housing policy analyst. Bringing this discussion to you. It's on the work plan for this year. And I think this topic was originally brought up by Kelly before she left. So apologizes that we didn't get it here while Kelly was still around. But I think thanks to Tom for providing some legal opinion in relation to this. I guess the background, my understanding from Kelly was there's certain jobs that do work in Pitkin County and out of Pitkin County that serve the valley, and her question was to consider if those people would be eligible for APCHA housing. And then Tom provided some points here to also consider while looking into something like this.
Let me just interrupt for just a second to say,
Please.
these are raising issues here. It's not an opinion. I'm just suggesting that before we put something like this into effect, we better make sure that we're on solid legal ground, because people who lose out may raise these issues. Right? There's always when somebody gets a house, there's somebody who doesn't, and that's why I bring it up. Okay.
I think for the most part, I just have sort of a series of questions to prompt your discussion, but my first one was, do you still want to talk about this?
I do not.
My recollection was we had some public comment. I think we had 2 public comments that were around this topic, and that led to a board comment. I think the only extent to which this is applicable to us is if we're extending the bounds of APCHA to be a regional housing authority, in which case, awesome. I think that's needed and we should do that. But if we're talking about Aspen and Pitkin County, this third point is the deal breaker for me. It's the reason using housing impact fees from the city and county to benefit workers in other jurisdictions would conflict with the requirement that impact fees are for the purpose of mitigating the impacts of development within the jurisdiction where the development is located is a pretty important point. So like we either expand the boundaries of APCHA or I'm with Carson here. So.
Anyone else?
Opens up Pandora's box, I think.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are so many different jobs you could put in this and so we'd have to either be picking specific. We went over this with the BOCC yesterday, and we quickly came up with everything from a landscaper to, emergency services. Sure, RAFTA was the one that I think came up initially, but it's like it's either you're going to say only this business is eligible, or and just on the deed restriction thing, it just seems overtly
right.
Yeah, I don't know, complicated.
I've been on the board when we've had public comment arguing for preference for I mean, everything from auto mechanics to, I mean, just, right, that's what makes a community. And every member of the community is needed. And once you start prioritizing one over the other, the list becomes too big to manage. And it's just, yeah, I don't think we want to go down that road.
Yeah, I've used this argument before. We talk about essential workers. I'm an artist, and I consider myself an essential part of the community. Not everybody does. Yeah, I think this might create more problems than it solves, and I think with all the efforts that APCHA and the city and county do for housing in this valley, this is a step beyond where I think we need to go.
Emily.
Shut her down.
Thank you
Have
for
this
putting
nice
together
slide.
such a wonderful memo.
Yeah.
This is an excellent memo. I know that you spent a lot of time on it. I'm sorry that this was not discussed earlier.
Well, she discussed that was the most important question at the start.
Well,
You hit it.
really-
You got the first question.
You know, I would add that in our pamphlet here, the points that Emily has brought up and made kind of support the direction that we're taking this. The boundaries that other counties have, et cetera, I think, thanks for your work
What
on this,
other
Emily.
entities are
'Cause-
doing is instructive. It's valuable.
Yeah.
Emily, did you learn anything in the process of studying this that would be helpful for the board to understand so that this isn't a complete waste of energy and time?
I mean, I think I included in the memo all the things I learned, and honestly, every time I dig into what other housing authorities are doing, I learn something, because some of them have lengthy regulations, and I can admit that I have not read all of those, so it's always fun to poke around and see what other people are doing, so I think it's worthwhile anyways, but I don't have any additional things to share with
That's
you
an
that weren't in the
excellent,
memo.
excellent point.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you. Okay. We are way ahead of schedule now.
Really quickly before we move on, what is the interest in the room about discussing regional housing authorities? Okay, good. Noted. Next item.
I think until we have our own house
Good point.
in order, I think that's where we should focus.
This guy just showed up.
Okay, we will move now to, we have consideration
green,
of, sorry, help me, is it Aja?
It's Asia.
Jewell's request for an extension of time for appeal. Tom is going to lead this.
Yeah, I'll introduce the topic. Is this better? Ms. Jewell filed an appeal of a hearing officer's decision on March 20th, and that appeal was timely. So it's pending in front of the board. Jurisdiction is in the board based upon the filing of the appeal. This is not on the agenda today to talk about the merits of the appeal at all. And I'm here talking about it as counsel to you, okay? Staff has their own independent position on this case and all, both procedurally and substantively, and as Ms. Jewell, of course, she's on her own too. We had a second filing from Ms. Jewell on May 5th. Is that right, 5?
That was an accident.
What was the date?
May 5th, it just re-forwarded
Oh,
the notice of appeal, so it wasn't a second appeal.
It was
It
submitted again?
Yeah, my computer's broken, so I've just been working on my phone, and so, everything's tiny. But it
We
just
had
resent a draft that
We
was
had
saved.
another submittal on May 5th, and included was a request for an extension of time, and that extension and the response of staff to dismiss the appeal is what's before you today, not the merits of the case. So I assume you've read what's in the packet, and I'm not going to advocate for either position. If the board hears from both sides and wants an executive session for legal advice, you're entitled to do that. That's at your discretion. So with that, I think we should hear, as is a typical procedure, to hear from the appellant and then to hear from staff, and then board can figure out what they want to do.
Okay. I think typically we have staff go first, but it's up to you.
Either
if
way,
you
typically
if
when you have a motion filed, you let the person who filed the motion.
Okay. So
Others.
let's just from a time standpoint, I mean, I guess, what do you think you need from a time standpoint? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I don't even think that much. I was going to keep it pretty brief. I mean, at this point, I feel like we've gotten so far into, I'm not an attorney. I'm just doing my best trying to like kind of keep up with like out losing, you know, the next step of what I can actually do through this whole process has been, you know, pretty kind of confusing, and moving to legal kind of things, I'm just keeping up. So the appeal is basically just because I wasn't able to create a transcript based on the YouTube link. There's no way to do that. So in using the company that Jackie had sent to me, I don't have $1,800 to send to get a written transcript of a recording of the hearing that had already happened. It's impossible at this point. So I was trying to do other avenues to get the transcript, and it's impossible based on that. So that was what the extension was for. But the original thing is just about compliance of my hours, which I feel like in that hearing I was able to, you know, to demonstrate and give extra documentation. However, I think the hearing officer he said that that wasn't what he was there to even kind of look at. So I'm not really sure what the hearing, I think, was just for me not submitting documentation in timely, which I feel like I did as well. So I think I'm a little confused over, you know, my house being, you know, for saled over kind of like procedural mishaps. So what I would really like is just to be able to prove my compliance and, you know, kind of carry on with regular stuff. So.
Okay. And how much time are you asking for?
Well, just to get the transcript of the recording. I mean, if you guys want to, I mean, ultimately, the appeal is to appeal the hearing officer's findings. So I'm not really sure what, at this point, I have to submit, because I have 1099s and, you know, my work hours. I have invoices to show my work from 23 and 24. I don't, if I have to prove every hour of the 1,500 hours, I could certainly go back and do that with my invoices, and which I thought that I did at the hearing. So I don't really know, like, at this point, what to put together to present for the appeal, you know, that would make any sense, I guess, if that makes sense to you guys.
Okay. Tom?
And to respond to your question, Carson, I'd like to ask you, Ms. Jewell, my reading of what you submitted is that you want APCHA to provide the transcript. Is that right?
I mean, or just the recording link. I was just given the YouTube link that was on the APCHA website, which.
But you're not asking. You're not saying you want a certain period of time to provide the transcript by sending it to a certain.
I don't have a certain percent. Like, I literally don't have the means to even send it to someone to have it facilitated. So, if the recording and the, I mean, there's an audio and a video recording of the hearing, but even aside from that, if there's an opportunity for it just to be looked at of my compliance, that's ultimately what I would like it to, like someone to actually review, you know, my full, you know, documentation and everything else, so that I can put it together in a way.
Does that mean you want that requirement waived, basically, to provide the transcript? I'm just trying to understand your position. I'm not trying to argue with you about it.
I'm not really sure. I would just like to not lose my house. So that's my position.
So, so the reason that I asked the question about how long of an extension that you're asking for is you started off and you'd said that the current procedure is that you provide the transcript of the meeting. And so I'm just trying to understand, because initially you had said it was impossible to get the transcription. And so I'm just trying to understand, how does if it's impossible, how does an extension, how does it help that?
Well, I would need to be sent the actual recording file. I was just, the only of the recording of the hearing was just the link that was posted on the APCHA website, which goes to YouTube. So that's not a file that I could even have like an AI program do. Like you can't.
Doesn't YouTube do an automatic?
They do, but you can't copy and paste it.
Oh.
I've been trying to do it. Like, so it does, like you can put show transcript and it'll come up on there, but it doesn't, you can't like
copy it.
Yeah. So if it was a voice recording or just a regular like MP3 file, you can upload that into an AI and that actually would create a transcript in a way, but from that link, it won't do it. I mean, I've tried like 1,000 times, like even just copy and pasting it. I've even had it like playing to another device to try and have it do voice recording, transcription. But I don't have, I mean, I would send it to a company to have it done in an instant, but I don't have the money. So, but that's the actual file I think is the only way to get that done. But yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions? I'm sorry, anything else from you?
No, I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's an opportunity, if there's any way to, just to review the actual compliance that is being questioned or otherwise, or if it has to be to an appeal, or I'm not like 100% sure of even where, there's been a lot of paperwork and a lot of stuff back and forth, and I would just like an opportunity to like cure the situation and not feel like I'm going to lose my house.
So for this particular hearing, this is just a procedural question about the request for an extension. So that's not something that we would discuss today.
Sure.
Did you have anything else? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
So Jackie, did you want to?
Go ahead.
Did you have anything you wanted to summarize on behalf of APCHA?
You should just summarize what you submitted to the board.
Okay, certainly.
I'm Jackie Marinera, the compliance officer, and I handled the compliance matter with Ms. Jewell. As Tom summarized, we're here today because she is seeking an appeal of the decision of the hearing officer that denied the appeal of the NOV. Essentially, there's two steps. One is within 15 days to request the appeal. That was timely handled. The second is 60 days for transcript and a copy of the exhibits. I'm actually learning a little bit more today about the circumstances that Ms. Jewell is going through, and what she's referring to on the APCHA website is a YouTube link. It's simply the format on which we hosted the audio and the video recordings. It was a Zoom hearing, and so that was the vehicle that we could make publicly available through a YouTube. Because we post it generally for the public, because it's a public hearing. And so if you don't have the Zoom, so YouTube is typically how we do that. I think that the typical process is that the board can then, if there is an inability for the appellant to make that 60-day period for good cause shown, the board may consider what an appellant might present as good cause for her inability to have the transcripts and the exhibits by the day.
I'd like to, well, go ahead, finish.
Based on the information that we had from her briefing, both the March 20th, and then there was a slightly different document that contained the request for an extension of time on May 5th, in addition to the repeat of the March 20th. What we tried to glean from that was that there didn't seem to be good cause shown. There seemed to be waiting till the last day, and then either not understanding that she had the responsibility for the transcript, or that APCHA was responsible for making it difficult for her to do that, where in fact she has had for several months the link to that audio and video recording. And if you go to, and we made it clear that she could use her own transcription service, and if you go to a transcription service, because this could potentially become a district court issue, and so it has to be by a firm that is in the business of making transcripts, and they would have the capability to use the format that APCHA typically provides in order to do that. So the board now is left with a question of how you would like to deal with it, but based on the circumstances that we had before us, there was not good cause shown. She had access to the ability, and had she gone with a professional transcription service, preferably, as she might have indicated, a lower cost than the one we typically use, there wasn't good cost shown for an extension of time at this time.
May I say something to that?
I think no.
Real quick, Tom, did you have a follow-up?
Well, as I say, there are some questions that might be appropriate for executive session discussion, but I would, just to be clear on the record, what the rule says is that because we've kind of talked around it and not directly addressed it here so far, the rule says that the appellant shall provide the transcript and all copies of all exhibits to the board within 60 days. That hasn't happened. It's a matter of record. It also says the board shall not consider an appeal without the transcript of the record. Mm-hmm. And then the third relevant part of that provision is that the board can extend the period of time for the transcript and exhibits to be prepared and submitted by the appellant. It does not say that it can be waived.
Got it. Any other questions for Ms. Jewell or for staff? Scott?
So just to clarify, Jackie, if, for example, within that 60-day window, Ms. Jewell had gone on and used an AI service to transcribe the YouTube video, it wouldn't have qualified?
No, we made very explicit after her notice of appeal in March that it must be done by a professional service that is in the business of providing transcripts. As I said, this could go on to district court, and unfortunately AI services would not be considered. We also did state that please check with APCHA beforehand to ensure that the service that you have chosen is acceptable for this.
And what does a low-cost service, as you referenced, what does that look like in terms of price for?
I don't know. The hearing was a 5-hour hearing.
Yeah, I just transcribed it with AI. It's a long document.
But she had the information as of January as to, January 15, we until May 5th when there was a motion for an extension.
There was a question about the cost estimate. Do you want to address that? That's in
the cost. There was a cost estimate. There was $1,800 and a lower amount depending on whether they took a month to do it or took a couple of weeks to do it. And so what we felt is that we gave her a ballpark of what she could expect in terms of this, but there just didn't seem to be any follow-up because we gave her the opportunity to choose her own. We just said that you need to make sure that we approve it because otherwise it will do no good for you.
Right.
My last question is if Fairy Godmother showed up and this transcript was professionally provided and on the table in front of us, are there any other limitations? Are there any other barriers to, besides, of course, the missing of the timeline, to making sure that this gets resolved? Or is just that one document being delivered? Was that the big?
Well, yes, it's a requirement that the appellant has the appeal and must come up with the transcripts, and there's no waiver of that. The board will not hear an appeal unless the appellant timely provides a transcript and the exhibits, and that's the way it is written. As of right now, there is no exception to that. There only is an exception to extend the time period to acquire those materials if good cause is shown. for not being able to do so within 60 days.
Okay.
May I say something to?
Sure.
In the initial email that Jackie had sent me with the estimate on it, when I had requested the file so that in January, because I knew that probably I was gonna have to get it, so I figured, to somehow get that going. Then when I was directed the link or whatever, otherwise I wasn't sure of what the procedure was. She then sent me an estimate from the company, and in her email, it says it's at APCHA's sole discretion of who gets the choice of what transcription service. So at that point, I had emailed back 2 different times all the way to the end of January, asking her, to tell me where in the rules it was that APCHA had sole discretion of choosing whom the company was, because $1,800 or $1,500 was the lesser amount that's impossible for me to do at this moment. I never heard back on that communication, and then when there was a communication, when I sent my notice of appeal on March 20th, she said, as a reminder, it has to be a professional transcription service, and then that language was then changed from at APCHA's sole discretion to then a professional transcription service. So until, it's the slight of sort of policy that has continued to change through this entire thing of exactly, how I'm supposed to navigate and how I'm supposed to produce, the expectation to produce. And, so if AI is not an option, because there are legal AI transcription services at this point that are accepted in district court. So in the rules and regs that I've read, there's not, there's not an additional amount of wording that tells you exactly what type of, of whom can do it. It just says the transcript has to be given to the board. It doesn't say whether it has to be a professional company or that APCHA has to choose it or that they have to, have input on it. So I think some clarity of how that's presented to you guys, and if the recording can then be used, or how, the document is probably 1,000 pages. So it's just, I don't really know how to make that happen, I guess.
Well, I know I have some questions, that I would like to consult Tom on in executive session. Does anybody have any other questions?
I guess my last question is, within the purview of what you just spoke, but within the purview of the board, what you just said was, we do have within our capacity the ability to extend. Within the purview of us as a board of directors, we do have the capacity to extend a time period if we so choose. Is that correct?
As if for due cause, for just cause, yes.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I would make a motion to go into executive session for legal consultation with our attorney regarding the extension request from Ms. Jewell.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. We will do a roll call vote.
Scott, did you second it?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Carson?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Ted?
Yes.
Okay. So we will go into executive session. So just procedurally, what will happen is we'll clear the room of everybody who's not staff or the board or our attorney. You're welcome to wait out in the lobby.
No problem.
And then what we'll do is once we adjourn executive session, we'll come back into the meeting, we'll let you back in,
Okay.
and we'll pick it up from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Recording stopped. And there isn't anybody on the
Okay, we are back from executive session, and so what we are contemplating are considering the request by Ms. Jewell for an extension on the time for appeal. So with that, I'll open it up for comments from the board. Does anybody have any comments on the appeal for extension?
Do we need to sum up what was?
Well, I guess I'll share my personal opinion maybe. So I think that anytime there's an appeal, I mean, these are always tough. I mean, anytime there's lives at stake, housing at stake, and I think the board takes those things with that level of seriousness because it has a large impact on your life. And that being said, I think for me personally, I don't want to deny this purely on a procedural basis. I think if Ms. Jewell is willing to consider looking at providing a transcript, which is required in the policy, and it meets the legal or court-ready standard that is required for submission. If this were to go to district court. Personally, I would be in favor of granting a very, very short extension. In my mind, it's probably the end of next week. I mean, that short, I think in this day and age with...
I don't think you can get a transcript done that fast.
You don't think we can do it that fast?
Well, first you got to find somebody, and then
Okay.
you don't know how busy they are. I think
Okay.
20 to 30 days is probably makes sense, yeah.
Okay. I lean towards the short end of this because I think we had 60 days already to do this. And so, I mean, I would be, I think, in that range of 21 days is 3 weeks. I mean, I think in my mind, that's ample time to provide the transcript. And I think from APCHA's standpoint, I think we would be looking for something that's legal or court ready, an affidavit from, and if you have questions on that, you can certainly check with staff, or if you want to check directly with Tom, you're welcome to check directly with Tom. But that would be my preference. So I'm not sure where everybody else is on that, but those are my thoughts.
I agree with everything you just said, Carson. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, I agree that we take these appeals very seriously. I would also point out that every appellant that has appealed a NIV or an NOV has been required to provide what Ms. Jewell's being asked to provide. So with that, I would agree with you that with compassion in mind, we'll give her a little extra time to come up with this, what she needs to come up with, and we'll go from there.
Scott, you want to share?
Yeah, so just doing a little bit of research on, what court reporting services and what a legal transcript service might look like and kind of the time frame, and it looks like the industry standard is around 30 days
Okay.
to deliver a legal transcript. So that might be a good baseline for us to set as, because it would be a shame for us
Yeah.
to, with compassion, set a deadline that's impossible for
Fair enough.
you to meet.
Fair enough.
And I also agree with everything you said. I think that, in good faith, we want to make sure that some procedural document not getting submitted doesn't lead to you losing your home.
Thank you. I
Our
appreciate
mission is to provide housing
Yeah.
to the people of this community. We also really need this to happen. It's part of the regulation. And so another thing that we're going to be asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you do find a service that you think you can use, that you speak with Tom and make sure that it fits into the box that we need it to fit into
Okay.
to meet the regulations.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments, discussion, questions?
No.
Motion.
If so, or if not, then I would make a motion that we grant a 30-day extension, and that prior to selection of the transcript provider, that either Tom or APCHA approve the vendor that you
I
select.
think we should keep staff out of it since
Okay.
they're a
Yes,
party.
Tom, great. We'll go, then I would amend that to Tom approve whichever vendor that you choose to use, and just know that what we're looking for is somebody who will provide a certificate of accuracy and something that is, the term is legal or court ready.
Okay.
That's what Tom's gonna be looking for. So as you go look, there's a number of them out there.
Yeah.
So as you go look, and that's what Tom's gonna be looking for. So just to restate the motion, 30-day extension, vendor to be approved by Tom, legal or court ready.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
Thank you. Is there, will I be sent?
Hasn't been a vote yet.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and it's a roll call vote.
Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Ted.
Yes.
You have 30 days.
Okay, I just have a question. Will I be sent the recording, like the file, or is it
No.
just from the?
There are numerous services that will do it from a YouTube video.
Okay, because that's what
Yep.
when I tried to get it from there. I did try, even tried
Yeah.
myself, which was not great. But I do really appreciate it, and thank you for the extension. And it's, I'm not trying to not comply with all of the stuff. I'm more than, willing to do whatever possible. It's just been.
I would strongly suggest before you hire someone,
Yeah.
run it by me.
That's what they said to do. To
Yeah, I
send
just
it
wanna
to
make sure
I'm,
you-
I'm
And you
happy to do that.
have Tom's contact
I
info.
do. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
happy
great.
to do that. So thank you very much.
Great. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, that is the conclusion of our agenda. We have only the informational turnover and APCHA document. And so with that, no further business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, John.
Do it all second.
Scott's going to second again.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Ted,
Aye.
John,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Carson.
Yes.
And Scott.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned, 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Tom.
Next time we'll get into.
Recording stopped.
you.